Well, I got this in, and as I was boxing it up to send it out, because it fucking sucks, spoiler alert, I realized I didn't actually do a video on it. So, for posterity's sake here, before this goes on out, let's do an MXR video. The title of this video will be something like the Die MXR. Why? Really, Die? Why do this to your user base? And, I wish I had better news on this, because I think there really are some great pros to the MXR. I think the most successful thing that it accomplished was kind of moving what should be expected in, a high-end gun package. 3 inserts, 2 triggers. The CS3 Pro has to come with all that stuff now. So it's that classic, adage, right? Like competition, spurs innovation, like moves the market. They can't have a gun that is at this price point with this many accessories and not have people, adopt it on their stuff. So I think the most successful thing about this gun is that it made the CS3 Pro better. That's it. That's the only good thing about it. I think once again, Die has truly missed the mark and has released a half-baked product that doesn't fucking work, spitting in the faces of all of their fans, right? I don't know why they don't test their stuff. It's obvious that this was not tested in any way. I think they designed this and then just made it. I don't think it ever saw a fucking ball through it, because the geometry of that V1 TAAC of the O-ring, it just double feeds like crazy. Even this one double feeds like crazy. I've yet to shoot a hopper that doesn't have an entire ball just get obliterated in the breech. And I'm talking big fat chops, not just barrel breaks, just fat chops. And you're like, it's actually, I don't even know where to go with this video. It's so fucking crazy. Even on that most recent Punisher's paintball video, you know what I mean? CS3 versus MXR, which one's for you? Like, they're doing the shooting test, and right at the end of the hopper, like fucking clockwork, the MXR blows up a fucking paintball. So, no, this gun is not good. It fails in its only objective, which is to shoot paintballs, right? But to be fair and balanced, if you want more data other than don't buy an MXR, right? I guess here's the whole thing, starting from the top, right? I think this is funny because Die obviously went all in on this. So much new tooling, so much, new parts, new operation, new everything on this. You can tell that they thought they were fucking slick with the MXR. They thought they were so gonna just win with the MXR. You've got new grips on the front and back. You've got new board setup, with these eyes. And, I guess let's do it. You get this new TAAC. Everything is new on this for the most part, right? So it doesn't share much with the DSR, doesn't share much with anything. All new tooling, all new parts. They were doing a big swing. And you can tell that it's a V1 Die product in the sense that it sucks and it doesn't work and everything's bad. Like look at this. People were like, oh, I don't like the DSR grips. What about this? That comes off way too easily. What the fuck are you talking about, Die? What kind of toolless grip design is that? And it's like they're so loose and terrible now that, listen to this. Hold on. Again, not thought out. They're like, oh, people said the DSR grips were too stiff. Let's make them softer. It is so much slop. Look at that. Listen. It clicks. It doesn't stay seated. Not good. Grips are bad. If you're gripping it too tight and you do this either way with your hand, grips are coming off. I like that there's a pressure sensor in it, great. But I think it is a true downgrade in electronics on the MXR, right? You've got this DSR style setup but of course done worse. The little clear plastic screen is built into the grips, and because the grips aren't tight, it doesn't stay seated. You've got a ton of slop. Not good, right? People complained about, the externally visible, trigger adjustment screws. They're like, yeah, we'll get rid of that by making a fucking trigger design that's also worse. They've done this planted eclipse style, where you've got a little axle that screws into it. This has the FreeFlow one on it because the die one uses an O-ring as a sealing point. So you can have this thing torqued down, and if you pull it, it's just going to move the trigger. It seals on an O-ring. It's like, once again, die, you're fucking stupid. Like, you didn't do it. Incorrect. Getting into this part of the packaging, I think this is slick. That's what I mean. Die really thought they had something here. They thought they were fucking cooking, Like this little magnet tray, 3 O-rings, color coordinated, they're all there. Very cool. Like all of this. I think this is very, very slick. But, they don't have a gun that works. So, 2 steps forward, 1 step back. Or should I say, 1 step forward, 2 steps back. It's I think the only thing, if you have an MXR, if you're thinking about getting one, I don't think that, like the DLS, which is always going to be doomed to fail, the MXR has to be doomed to fail. I think it's really just this TAAC setup. I think this is poorly conceived, badly executed. It just double feeds like crazy, and it's not good. But I think this beautiful engine, I think, we've got this basically DSR core with, the chamber sensing and recoil cancellation of the M3 of the, the arc bolt. I don't know. I think fundamentally this design isn't broken. I think this operates fine. I think you've got a fantastic engine wrapped in a bunch of die bullshit, right? Unlike a DLS, which is a bad engine wrapped in die bullshit. So I think, will die make it to the MXR Plus or the MXR Pro or whatever? I don't know. That would be the only way I would buy an MXR, is on version 2. They absolutely fucking missed on this one. It's not good. They're going to come out with an MXR Plus that's going to have some sort of co-molded new eye pipe, because it's, I'm sorry that this is so non-linear, but it's just, I'm so frustrated with this fucking gun. It's so bad. A lot of people, I'm sure will say, Nick, why does it matter that, this has holes in it, blah, blah, blah. It's like every other paintball gun in the world has eye holes for their eyes. I'd say, yeah, for sure. The problem is that this thing blows up paint like crazy, and its design has these little eye pipes. But it's not like the Planet Eclipse ones, obviously, because then they would work. These ones are the little light transfer pipes are suspended in this rubber kind of shielding. You push this rubber thing up in there, it peeks through the holes. So when you blow up a ball, and you will, when you blow up a ball, it leaks into these rubber eye pipes, and it will just leak into this fucking daughter board. It's not a good solution, Plus, there's about 4 axes that these can be skewed on. Your yaw, and it just, these eye towers are so fucking bad. Absolutely unreal bad. If they're not in there perfectly, you'll get an eye fault. And it's impossible, once you take them out, to get them back in a way that won't give you an eye fault. If they get misaligned by 1/1000th of an inch, you'll get an eye fault, because these emitters are so woefully underpowered. And you're probably thinking, Nick, what do you mean the emitters are underpowered? Well, there's been some community action. A gentleman I really trust has been, doing some testing, and it turns out if you put pieces of clear, transparent tape between the eye emitter on something like a G6R, its eyes can see through 50 pieces of clear tape. On the MXR, it's like 4. I think we will see how big of a deal using these shitty emitters is going to be down the road. I can't attest to if that is a main problem with this gun or not. I just don't know, right? But if you break a ball, it's out of commission. Your eyes are not going to work. A little bit of paint gets in these eye holes, gets in these eye towers, completely bricked, not going to work. And then you have to pull out this TAAC, you know what I mean? And then clean out this TAAC, and then get a little Q-tip and clean out your eye towers. It's 10 steps just to clean it out. So that's why it's worse than every other gun that has just eye holes. Because one, on your Planet Eclipse gun, it's never going to break any paint. And if it does, it's got those prisms that are pretty much flush. It's not just a hole that collects paint, right? Like this, it's so poorly thought out. It's so fucking stupid. I think it's disappointing because, again, Dye's swinging for it. The solenoid is built into the frame now. So on the mech frame, which, again, it's been a year, the mech frame still isn't here. I know it's going to be nice. You unscrew it. Everything's going to be self-contained. It's going to be nice, I'm sure. But, again, now you're going to have a mech gun that doesn't fucking work. So, I don't know if that's a priority for anyone. A mech gun that, can't shoot mech because of the detent system, causing double feeds and pushing balls partially into the breech, which is then causing your bolt to just smack into them full force and explode them, And that's what I mean. This MXR, it's like you can tell a lot of thought and a lot of love went into the actual design. Like it's well thought out. Everything is good. You know what I mean? I wish the bolt cap was, the M3 style. I just think this is too much like a DSR. I think for the gap in price between the two, it should be further from a DSR, because why would you not buy a DSR? DSR works, M3 does not. Same kind of bolt release, same board set. Like it's a little bit nicer DSR. And I think as everyone wants to move towards this Planet Eclipse model, because even MacDev, you know what I mean? The Droid is just a shittier, GTX now. The DSR is just a shittier MXR, the 180R is a shittier CS3, right? So, I get it. We're all going to just do the same thing here. I will give Dye credit because their engines are different. They keep swinging and keep doing new engines. John Chambers was such a big part of this engine, and you can tell it was made with love because the engine part of it is great. It's just the rest of this is bullshit. And it's going to be the Dye curse. It's going to be the curse of the MXR, which is, people will like the shot, but the gun doesn't fucking work. So it's going to be a lot of community action to get these things to a spot where they work. FreeFlow has these clear TAACs, but that only addresses half the issue, which is the actual O-ring setup. This actual O-ring detent system is bad. It is bad. Like brand new MXRs. Again, case in point, here I am, at this pipe that's going out the door because it doesn't fucking shoot paint without breaking it. So, I think if someone makes a little sleeve that takes Eclipse finger style detents or something, that'd be great. Everyone likes to say they won't make an eye pipe just because there's not enough room in there. They can't have a traditional detent system, whatever. But it's not good. Certifiably not good where it is now. I think the amount of community changes, and again, it's a nice gun for a certain type of person. You know what I mean? If you like to, fuck with your stuff all day, it's going to be a good gun for you. But the biggest upgrade right now is just a pack of O-rings that fixes a bunch of tolerance issues. Must buy. Got to make sure you get the O-ring kit that fixes all the fitment issues, right? Everyone is debating on the best size for these TAAC O-rings. The V2 shipped with a 14 by 2. I'm rocking a 15 by 1.8, and nothing really helps. Like you're always going to get an insane amount of push through. You're always going to get, and here's the other thing, you're always going to get an insane amount of hitching. Like these O-rings, it now holds your bolt. Like it doesn't, it's such a fucking stupid, like you can't really push it through. And when you do, it holds it. So I have to use these method tips because on the die V2 tip, the hitching problem is so bad the bolt can't even enter the breech. Like I know it's got to have something to do with destroying this fucking paint. I don't know. So I think my boy Alexander's going to have a pretty big video on some of the multitude of issues. So I'm going to link his YouTube down below. He gets a bit more scientific than me. I'm more vibes-based reviews, So he'll be doing a better job on that. But I think everyone will agree MXR fundamentally flawed. And you'll have the same people that say the same thing. It's like, well, my DLS shot great. I'm like, okay, yeah, so then why are DLSs $450? You know what I mean? It's just, it doesn't matter. Anyone who says they have an MXR that shoots great, the set of parameters that allows it to shoot great is so specific that it's not even worth talking about. But I don't know. It's crazy to me that every die gun, comes with a qualifier. You know what I mean? Oh yeah, the MXR rocks, but you got to get it working. You got to do this with the TAAC, blah, blah, blah. No other gun in the world. They're like, well, that CS3 shoots great if you can get it working. That LV2 shoots great if you can get it working. That GOR5, man, if you can get it working, like it's just die. And you know that. And die has taken advantage of its fan base for so long. They had so much goodwill built up for so long that they can keep releasing shit like this and getting away with it. I don't understand. You know what I mean? So that makes me happy that they obviously spent a ton of money on tooling and design and new parts and radically changed every component on this for what they thought was going to be, die's fucking back. People love the DSR. So now we made the pro level DSR, the MXR. Die's fucking back. And they fucking bungled it. And now, the resale on MXRs is, I saw a Death Star MXR for $750 yesterday. So, you know what I mean? Like it's too little too late. The MXR fucking sucks. If you get one, you are rolling the dice. It's not a good buy. I would not recommend buying one under any circumstances. There's no reason to buy one. Especially because at the end of the day, and I guess here's the actual other part of your review, I don't think the shot quality is good enough to offset how bad it is on paint handling, right? So this gun, it's a very interesting shot characteristic. You can tell that it's a hybrid of these two systems, right? Between the DSR and the M3. The big selling point is that you get about 4 or 5 extra pods versus the DSR. In terms of efficiency, no mistake, this is an efficient gun. I don't know if the trade-off for that additional efficiency is worth it. Like if this just would have been a 1-to-1 copy of the DSR engine, that would have been great for me because I love the batteries. Not being a 9-volt, I love this spacing. It is ergonomically the best feeling marker on the market. I will give them that. The ergonomics are fantastic. It's thin, that ultralight frame is great. This gap right here is great. Ergonomically, fantastic. If this just would have been a 1-to-1 of the DSR, I think they'd had a winner. They did this hybrid and, for more efficiency, which is fine because I still think for its category, what I mean? It's going up with gamma core markers. Like you have to remember the context that these are released in. So at this price point, this kind of, summit professional gun, you've got the CS3, the R5, the LV2, and, the Lux Idol, right? And I guess the GTX. All of those are just gamma cores, right? So it certainly shoots better than a gamma core. It's more efficient. The recoil cancellation is phenomenal. It has so little kick Like when people talk about a smooth gun, they talk about the GOR5, which I would say feels smoother because it is quieter. This is louder than a GOR5, but also not really. I don't know. Like when you shoot it, it just does not move at all. It's completely linear, no barrel rise. It is a smooth shooter, more so than the DSR 100%. I'd say, but it has that thing like the DLS where the shot signature is a crack. It's a snap. So very, low amplitude, like the volume's very low, but it's crack. It's very fast, where the DSR is foom. So even though the DSR is fooming, maybe a little bit higher in terms of absolute volume, this just feels more abrupt and more aggressive. I don't know. It's not as much fun to shoot as a DSR. The actual physical sound profile I do not like as much. I don't think it shoots as pleasantly. I'd say, but from a recoil perspective, fantastic. It feels fast, like if you're in semi, you know what I mean? You pull that trigger and that shot comes out, no delay, fast cycling, nice, solid shot signature. I could see how you could really prefer this. It absolutely shoots better than the CS3, absolutely shoots better than the Gamma Core. Ergonomics are better than both. Probably worse paint handling than the Idol, right? I don't think there's a compelling reason to have this gun. Like if you really have to shoot a die gun, just get a DSR. This isn't correct yet. They haven't worked this out, And I won't let them work that out. I'm not going to buy an M3 Plus or an M3 Pro or whatever. I think it's so disrespectful to have a marker, to have a history, to have a lineage, to have your company identity be that you release things that suck, deny it, blame your audience, you're not shooting it right. Finally walk it back and release some V2 parts, which are a half fix, and then they will release, and I bet you fucking $10, they're going to release a new TAAC that's metal with, maybe some sort of IR transparent sections for the eyes with some sort of finger style detent or new kind of detent thing. They're going to call it TAAC Pro, TAAC Plus, the Iron Man TAAC, and it'll be a $35 upgrade piece. Everyone agrees that the V2 TAAC is great, but if you want that little bit of extra performance, buy the new Iron Man TAAC. Like, it's actually disgusting, and they deserve to fail. They're not a true third party. The only reason you'd buy a die gun right now is because you want to support, third party, right? Like, it's like you want to have a little velocity of money. You want to have some money outside of the, Planet Eclipse ecosystem. You want to be a cool third party guy, which I get, But if that's the case, go buy a MacDev. You know what I mean? Go buy a Force, where your money's actually doing something, and it's not being taken for granted, and the product actually works. So MXR is disgusting. It's bullshit. It doesn't fucking work. And I don't think it's just me, because I think you'll notice that the resale on MXRs is bad. It's not good. No one is selling, even, these private label MXRs. I picked this up for much less than retail. I just sold it again for much less than retail. The die ones are sitting on FreeFlow's website. You know what I mean? They still got ones in stock. Mason still has MXRs in stock. The limited ones, like, it's just, nobody cares, and for good reason. And no one has released a magic bullet that'll fix this. Even the FreeFlow TAAC, it's nice because when your MXR invariably blows up paint, it just won't make you have to take your entire gun apart to clean the finicky rubber eye towers. So, that's a zero stars. It can't shoot paint without breaking it, right? Once again, die has missed the mark, and they've sunk a bunch of money into, parts and tooling to have their kind of Summit Fi gun be done. But they did a bad job. It doesn't work. Mech frame still isn't available. Nothing about it is really that good. Grip situation's bad, board is bad, programming's bad. It's just just kind of a mess. Not a good buy. I think, you know, the DSR is still fantastic. I think it shoots a little bit different than the DSR. Not better enough to justify having to, you know, do an MXR, right? I mean, look at this. Crazy. So let's see. I mean, and I gave it a shot on this profile here. What's my total shot count? That's on this profile. Give me 1 second. See, like it doesn't engage the joystick because the grips are, you know, you have to line up that little rectangle section on the joystick on the DSR, but it's built into the grip, so, you know. Let's see. Come on now. All right, there we go. Thank you. Will it total shots? Yeah, 10,414. So, I mean, I've really given it a try. You know, I've really given it a try. And I've done it stock. You know how, you know, V2 parts, stock O-rings, bust up paint, Connor kit, busts up paint, method bolt, busts up paint, you know, without even getting into the FreeFlow parts, which are a joke. Like, these FreeFlow parts are so stupid. The FreeFlow parts actually make it shoot worse, which is incredible. It lowers the volume for sure, but at the expense of introducing a ton of kick. I don't understand the design philosophy for what FreeFlow did. I guess it's cool to have the option, but I landed with 0 FreeFlow parts except for the trigger plate, which I do think is great. They should have just done the trigger plate there. You know, bolt guide and spring combo, I think, is poorly conceived. I think it was, you know, kind of cool in theory, right? A little rotating restrictor, but between their restrictor and then that super soft spring, it just kicks a ton. I don't think it's a good setup. Didn't break any less paint either. So, you know, no sense RMAing this for me. After my DLS fiasco, you know, I'm just gonna be done with this here. So that is the Dye MXR. I think well-intentioned, poorly executed. I think if they would have tested it or just released it with a normal eye pipe, they'd have had a winner on their hands. They could have actually taken some, you know, market share away from the CS3s and the R5s and everything, but you know, they fumbled it. They did a bad job. You know, I think they're actually stupid over there. I think they don't care. They don't care for some reason, and you know, I think it shows it, right? Too little, too late. You know, just not a good setup. So there you go. Buy something else. Don't buy an MXR. Anyone trying to sell you an MXR is a retailer, right? I just don't think it's a good buy. No reason to buy one.